find your flow, follow the map. Mile high dreaming's got your back. Denver skies, trailhead pride. This is your moment, campfire vibes.
This is a presentation called Breaking Barriers, an admin's guide to accessibility. And I'd like to start just by thanking our sponsors. We could not have had the conference without them. All right. So my name is Rebecca Letter. I am a Salesforce project lead at a nonprofit called the Blind Institute of Technology. And we'll talk a little bit about BIT's mission in a moment. But the purpose of this presentation is to discuss a little bit about Salesforce and accessibility and what we as admins can do to try to make sure that we are pushing accessibility forward and essentially not screwing up some things that Salesforce has very nicely set up for us to try to ensure that the screen reader accessibility is good. And the presentation will focus a little bit particularly on screen reader accessibility simply because that is kind of my area of knowledge. I am blind. I am a screen reader user in my day-to-day life, so that is how I interact with a computer. And so in addition to being one of the accessibility issues that kind of most comes up when it comes to web pages and that sort of thing, it also is my area of personal experience. All right, so let's talk about the Blind Institute of Technology, or BIT. So we are a nonprofit organization that's focused on workplace development for people with disabilities. So a lot of our focus is essentially on working with potential employers as well as with our career seekers who have disabilities and essentially trying to make matches, getting people jobs. We are also Salesforce's only training partner for professionals with disabilities. And part of the programs that we offer have to do with helping people reskill in certain technical fields. So at the BIT Academy, we have a program to help people get certified as a Salesforce admin, and we have classes for a few other certs that we've introduced recently as well. We have an Agentforce class, a business analysis class, and we'll be introducing others going forward. We also have a digital accessibility wing of our academy that's focused on getting people certified as digital accessibility analysts. And then we also have a federally registered apprenticeship program, both for Salesforce and for digital accessibility. The idea there is that we essentially run just like a standard consulting service, but we predominantly work with other nonprofits. We're able to kind of have, lower rates than a lot of organizations because we are a nonprofit ourselves. And our focus is basically on getting our apprentices, the people who've been through our academy program and gotten certified as admins, a chance to have paid part-time work on actual Salesforce projects so that they then have something to put on their resume, and it's a little easier for us to find them full-time employment after they finish the program. So I wanted to share some statistics about why BIT's mission is so important. So approximately 1.3 billion people around the world, so that's about 16% of the world's population, have a disability at any given time. In the US last year, the employment population ratio for people with disabilities who are kind of in the range that you would expect people to be working, so 16 to 64, was 37.1%. So only 37.1% of adult people with disabilities have employment in comparison with 75.0% of the same age range for non-disabled people in the US. So that is a pretty big discrepancy. People with disabilities are about half as likely to have employment. And I should note that this is just looking at employment versus unemployment. It is not asking any questions about how people are employed. So some of that 37.1% are likely to be underemployed. They might be bagging groceries when they have a college degree, for example. But the flip side of that is that there are actually a lot of benefits for companies who do employ people with disabilities. According to a 2023 study, those companies experience approximately 1.6 times more revenue, approximately 2.6 times more net income, and approximately 2 times more economic profit. So there are a lot of benefits to that. So then the question is, why is Salesforce the specific tech company that BIT is so focused on partnering with? Because I will tell you that not just me, but other members of this organization that I work for, when we go out and we talk about Salesforce, we sound kind of like a Salesforce commercial. And that's not because they're paying us to do that. That's because they have actually done a really good job with accessibility and with showing their commitment to continued accessibility. So the Salesforce front end is extremely accessible just out of the box. The back end is slightly less accessible, but still very accessible, certainly accessible enough that people like me are able to have jobs as Salesforce admins and do everything we need to do with a screen reader. And as I said, it's not just about where the accessibility is at right now, it's about that commitment to keep it up, to continue improving. They're not just saying, oh good, we apparently have a mostly accessible product, so we're just gonna sit on our laurels with that. They have really shown, just in the roughly 5 years that we've been partners with them, that they are willing to really make meaningful changes to try to improve in areas where they are lacking. So at the time that we became partners already, they were starting to push the transition from Classic to Lightning. Lightning is more accessible than Classic is with a screen reader. Shortly after our partnership began, I think it would have been right around the end of 2021, beginning of 2022, they took Flow Builder, which at the time that I was first getting certified was completely inaccessible with a screen reader, and they released a screen reader accessible version. And you would think that that would be pretty difficult to do because of how visual flows are in the way that they're laid out, but they did a really good job of providing the context cues that are necessary for someone like me to figure out where I am in the flow and to actually keep track of what's going on. So they did a very impressive job with it. And then something that has been happening more recently and is still kind of ongoing is the transition from Page Layout Editor to Lightning App Builder. Lightning App Builder is pretty screen reader accessible. It's very good. Page Layout Editor is very dependent on your ability to drag and drop. It's not impossible to do that with a screen reader, but it involves very advanced screen reader skills, and it's a bit hit and miss. And even with all of that working out, it's probably going to take me 30 minutes to do something that a sighted admin would be able to do in 5 minutes. But that's not a problem with Lightning App Builder. And so the more of our objects get access to dynamic forms, the more other applications that are using kind of the same editor as Page Layout Editor, are moved to different systems, and the more stuff we are just no longer reliant on Page Layout Editor for and can do in Lightning App Builder instead, the better the accessibility becomes. And so that's been a really key change that they've been pushing with all of their updates recently. And then the final reason why why we want to partner with Salesforce is just that they support us. They have been very open to having conversations with us about accessibility and about other issues. They've involved themselves in our employer partner program to bring in some of our apprentices to supervise them within Salesforce. They've just done a lot to really support our mission, and so certainly we appreciate that. All right, so most of the rest of this presentation is going to be focused on demonstrating, a little bit of what it's like to actually experience Salesforce as a screen reader user, and how different that experience is when an admin has configured things in a way that supports Salesforce's native accessibility versus when they've been configured in ways that kind of go against that. Salesforce has given us a lot of tools to make things very accessible, but it is also possible for us as admins to kind of break things a little bit. So we will come back to this page for some key takeaways after the demos, but for now, can we get the screen reader audio? Okay, so you all should be able to hear the screen reader. You probably don't understand it at that speed. And I do kind of do that a little bit on purpose because I do think that it is a little bit instructive for people who have never actually heard someone who uses a screen reader regularly use it. We do train ourselves to be able to hear the screen reader at much higher speeds than normal speaking because people can read at higher speeds than we speak. So it just makes it a little bit easier for us to keep up in terms of speed with the rate of work that other people are able to do. So I will go ahead and turn that speed down for you so that you can understand it a little bit better during the presentation.
Slower.
Okay.
Bad underline, let underline, creation underline, flow article end.
Oh, I'm going to refresh. Sometimes the screen reader gets a little
Lightning
confused
experience.
when it's coming back to things. Okay. Oh, it's gone back up in speed.
Slower.
Okay.
Milestones PM plus heading level 1. Project back page project heading level 1.
Can people kind of generally get the gist of what it's saying now? Okay, great. So we are on a Lightning record page that I deliberately designed to be as bad as possible from a screen reader perspective. So I'm going to now take you through a little bit of why this is so bad. And I don't actually know how this looks. Possibly it doesn't look great from a visual perspective as well.
Project back page project heading level 1.
All right, so we're starting at the beginning of what we as admins are capable of configuring. And as I said before, this might not look great to you either. I was very focused on getting it to be as bad for the screen reader as possible. There definitely can be pages that are maybe not quite this bad, but that are still not great, that look a lot better to sighted users. So the first thing that I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate is something having to do with the way that these columns are set up. So to start, I'm just going to be arrowing down, going element by element, and giving you a chance to see how it moves through the elements on the page.
Heading level 1 back page project. Follow button. Edit button. New contact button. New opportunity button. Show more actions button menu collapsed. Heading level 2 activity publisher.
Okay. So that was the key moment. You notice that we went from the end of that highlights panel that's kind of spanning the entire page, and now we're at the beginning of the left-hand column. And so this is kind of demonstrating something that's a bit of a key aspect of how screen readers work that's different from how people who are sighted engage with websites. For people who are sighted, websites happen in 2 dimensions. There's up and down, but there's also left and right. That's not true with a screen reader. We engage with the website in only 1 dimension. There's just top to bottom. And so anything that is actually, left of something or right of something on the page from a visual perspective is going to be either above it or below it from a screen reader perspective. So the way that things work when you're setting up pages in Salesforce is that it's going to handle anything that is just at the top of the page that's going all the way across it, like the highlights panel first. Then it's going to go to the top of the leftmost column, and it's going to read everything in the leftmost column top to bottom. And it's only going to go to the next column to the right when it's finished everything in that leftmost column. And it's just going to keep doing that until it gets to the right, the bottom of the rightmost column. And so what that means is that this particular setup for the page where you've got a left sidebar, but then you've got the main content in the right column, that's already kind of not great because it means that your main content has a bunch of stuff that's in between the top of the page and when you're actually able to access it. Now, if other things are set up well, you might be able to skip to the main content a little bit more efficiently, and then it might not be as much of a problem. So this tends to be the biggest problem when there are other best practices that aren't being handled properly. But just in general, if you can put your main content stuff on the left-hand side instead of on the right, you can put the sidebar on the right. That does tend to be a bit better because it means that even someone who's a little bit less familiar with the page and doesn't know how to do things efficiently yet will be able to find your main content much more easily. So that's a great place to start. So now that we've talked a little bit about columns, we're going to talk a little bit about headings. I don't know how many people in the room have any experience with HTML and that side of the tech world. But one thing that's very important with a screen reader is making sure that you are formatting things properly in HTML so that they're actually tagged as the thing that they are in the HTML instead of just appearing like it visually. So for example, you want your headings, the things that are supposed to be kind of those landmark, standout bits of text, to actually be tagged as headings in the HTML. You do not want them to just have the font increased and maybe it's been bolded or something like that, because that might look like a heading to a sighted person, but to a screen reader, that might as well just be normal text. And we can navigate the page more efficiently by jumping directly from heading to heading. That's one of the things that that we can do to kind of skim a web page instead of reading every single element on it. So in addition to being able to just go heading to heading in general, we can also skip directly from a heading of a particular level to a heading of that same level or a different level. But we can go to a specific level of heading, skipping over all of the headings of other levels that may be in between. So it is very helpful to have headings that are set up well. It's also helpful to pay attention to those heading levels. All of that is set by Salesforce, but knowing which elements have heading level 2s versus heading level 3s can kind of help you get a sense of whether your page is well designed from a screen reader perspective, whether it's actually letting people easily go from section to section more broadly, and then in a smaller sense from subsection to subsection within sections. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go just heading by heading without paying attention to the level for the moment, just to show you some features of this terrible design. So at the moment, we're on the activity publisher.
Activity timeline heading level 2. Upcoming and overdue heading level 3 button expanded. August bullet 2025 this month heading level 3 button expanded. Milestones left parent to right parent heading level 2 link.
And it may or may not have followed me visually when I did that, because I think as I get further down the page, sometimes the visual doesn't change when the JAWS focus has changed. So let me know if that starts to become a problem where you can't understand what I'm talking about based on the visuals. But you will notice that we transitioned from that activity publisher and activity timeline. Now we're starting to get into some related lists.
Visited link back page, milestone 1 open back page, milestone 1 preview open back page, milestone 1 preview open back page, milestone 1 preview heading level 3 button. Visited link back page, milestone 2 open back page, milestone 2 preview open back page, milestone 2 preview open back page, milestone 2 preview heading level 3 button. Tasks heading level 2.
And I'm actually going to go down just using arrow keys, because hopefully
Article
that'll
end.
catch
Article.
it up.
Heading level 2 project resources. Article end.
I'm not sure that worked, but let me know.
Risks heading level 2.
Yeah, we're not showing related.
Article end. Article.
Oh,
Heading level 2
interesting.
issues. Article end. Print can
Is
button.
it changing at all?
It's scrolling slowly.
Back page milestone 1 graphic. Back page task 1 graphic. Back page task 2 graphic.
Now,
Issues heading level 2.
yeah, so it's not letting me actually move the visual to show you those related lists, unfortunately, because it's now going into the right-hand column finally. But so you'll notice, at least you could hear it, that there are quite a few, you've got all of that activity stuff, the activity publisher, the activity timeline, everything associated with that. Then you've got those related lists. Hopefully you were able to tell that there were some items, some related records that were showing up in some of those related lists. And all of that is in between the top of the page and the beginning of that right-hand column. And now when we're actually getting to the top of the right-hand column,
Article end. Print can button. Back page milestone 1 graphic. Back page task 1 graphic. Back page task 2 graphic. Back page milestone 2 graphic.
it's reading you elements from the Gantt chart that's at the top here. We're still, even though we've gotten into the right-hand column, we're still not at the main content. So now I'm going to skip forward by heading again.
Project status heading level 3 button expanded.
And you just heard the title of the project status section, which is not the first section in our details component. In actuality, if I start tabbing up,
List with 9 items. Edit predecessor project button to activate. Edit internal button to activate presenter. Help internal check to edit program button to activate presenter.
you'll see that there are a bunch of fields here already. So essentially, the horrible thing that I have done with this design is I put something that doesn't have a heading associated with it at the top of this right-hand column for our main content. And then I put our details page, but I didn't upgrade this page to dynamic forms. And so it still allows me to make the section heading for the first section in our details page not show up. And so there's no heading there either. And so it isn't until the second section, which actually does have a visible section heading, that I'm able to skip forward. So if I want to get to that to the top of that bank of fields that's at the top of the details, I need to either go to this project setup heading and then tab all the way up through that section to the top, or I need to go back a heading to the issues related list that it was at the bottom of the left-hand column, and then I need to tab through all of the elements related to the Gantt chart until I hit the settings. That's super inconvenient. So this is an example of something where we've got a combination of the issue with columns and this issue with headings that is creating a really big issue for a screen reader user who's just trying to get to the top of the fields. And it's one of those things where, because of the inherent accessibility of Salesforce, this is something that, you know, like, you can't really break it so far with Lightning App Builder that I can't get to where I need to go at all, but you can definitely make it super difficult for me. So one final thing that I'm just going to show is that I have all of these details. Again, hasn't been upgraded to dynamic forms. So I have all of this just in a big list of all of the sections that are needed for this particular type of record.
Project status heading level 3 button. Project metrics heading level 3 button. Milestone metrics heading level 3 button. Task metrics heading level 3 button expanded. Hours metrics heading level 3 button expanded. Expense metrics heading level 3 button expanded.
And that should be the last one.
Display information heading level 3
there
button
was one
expanded.
more.
Wrapping the top. Milestones PM.
So yeah, that's also an aspect of design that, you know, it's not the worst part of this page by any stretch of the imagination, but it's still not great. So again, this is a page that I designed really specifically to be as bad as possible. Now I'm going to show you an example of something that is basically the same page, but where I cleaned it up to be much nicer. And in this case, I do think that it probably also looks nicer from a cited perspective. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh the page.
Lightning experience. Lightning experience.
And then I'm going to turn the...
Slower. Main region.
Okay. So now we're on the good page. And first thing that I'm sure you've noticed is that I've got that main section as the left-hand column and the sidebar is now the right-hand column. So that's definitely already helped a lot. Just, you know, even if I just were to arrow or tab down through things, I would get to those fields a lot faster, to that main section a lot faster, even if I weren't using any of my shortcuts. But I can also use the shortcuts. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is show you some of the headings the way I've got it set up now.
Project good page, project tabs heading level 2.
Okay, so first of all, at the top of this right-hand column, I've got a tab bank where I've organized the sections. You know, this one has been upgraded to dynamic forms. And so I have these different sections that are separated out into different tabs. That makes it a little bit easier to find exactly what you're looking for. And it means that there are fewer elements cluttering up the page if I am actually looking for that left-hand sidebar and need to get past all of this more expediently. And it's also just less to tab through when you're looking for specific things as you're going through the fields in general. So we'll come back to that tab bank in a moment. But one thing that's actually pretty cool is that with this one, I did pay attention to the difference between those heading level 2s and the heading level 3s. So these tab banks are heading level 2s. The section headings are heading level 3s. And similarly, a lot of the things that are within the activity timeline, like when it's saying upcoming and that sort of thing, those are going to be heading level 3s. With the related lists, the entry for a given object itself is going to be a heading level 2, but if it has records underneath it, those are going to be heading level 3s. So by paying attention to that, I've created a situation here. I'm on the heading level 2 at the top of the right-hand column, and now I'm just going to hit the command to go to the next heading level 2.
Tabs heading level 2.
And here I am immediately at the top of the left-hand column. So I was able to skip everything in the right-hand column and get immediately to the left-hand column without having to go through anything that's actually in the right. Yeah, sorry, I reversed the directions, but I was able to get directly from the left-hand column to the right-hand column without actually having to go through any of that main content. And so if it had been set up with the headings like this, even with the sidebar on the other side of the page and the main content in the right-hand column, it still would have been so much easier to get to that main content because I would have just been able to skip by one heading level 2, and then suddenly I'm there. And you'll notice that I also, just like I organized my different sections of fields into different tabs, I also put the activity publisher and timeline in one tab and the related list stuff in another tab, so that again, it's easier to get where you're going. There just isn't as much clutter that you have to get through as you're exploring the page. So now I'm going to go back to the top of that left-hand column.
Tabs heading level 2. Good page project vertical bar milestone hour and expense met Gantt tab selected 404 selected.
So I do actually still have that Gantt chart that was so in the way in the other version of this page.
Virtual PC cursor.
But the way that I have it set up here, so this bank of tabs is a heading.
Display information heading level 3 button expanded.
And the one section of fields that are related to the Gantt chart that I put in this tab as well also starts with a heading. So I can jump to the top of where the Gantt chart begins by going back a heading, or I can jump to the bottom of where the Gantt chart ends and where the fields begin with another heading. So in this situation, I'm never going to have to tab all the way through the Gantt chart to get where I'm going, regardless of what I'm looking for. I only have to go into that Gantt chart if I'm actually trying to look at the Gantt chart. So hopefully that has really given you a sense of the difference for screen reader users between some of these not great design practices and some of the better ones. I'm then also going to quickly just give you a little bit of a demo of similar things related to screen flows. And so for that, we're going to go to this home page. And once again, we're going to go ahead and refresh it just to make sure it's starting at the top of the page.
Slower. Milestones PM plus heading level 1.
I guess it actually did.
Main region.
Okay. So in this one, we've got a main region that has a dashboard, and I'm able to go from element to element within the dashboard using my
Home
headings.
heading level 1.
Oh.
Wrapping the top. Home heading left. Quarterly performance heading left. Today's events heading level. Recent records heading level 2. Today's tasks heading left. Key deals dash recent opportunities heading level 2.
This key deals element in the dashboard is the last thing that's in this right-hand column. And then I have these screen flows. Again, I created 2 different versions of the same screen flow to kind of demo good practices versus bad practices. The one with bad practices is on top. And so what I'm going to show you now is I'm at the bottom of the right-hand column. So the next heading is going to be whatever heading is the first one, in the left-hand column. The next heading is going to be the first one in the right-hand column.
Good lead creation flow heading level 2.
And that's the good lead creation flow, not the bad one that's actually on top. So the way things are set up in Flow Builder is that when you're creating a screen, it gives you the option to actually show or hide the header. And you also have the option of choosing to use sections or not. And those sections also have headers, or have headings that are associated with them. So when you're using those sections, you're automatically introducing headings into the way that you have your screen flow organized. So I didn't do any of that with the bad version of this screen flow. It is just a list of fields and then a submit button. And in fact, it is a completely unsegmented, fairly long list of fields that you would have to tab all the way through everything. So it's also going to be kind of difficult if you get close to the bottom of the bad, the bad lead creation screen flow. If you get close to the bottom of that and you realize that you misanswered something towards the top of it, it's going to be kind of hard to get all the way back to the top of the screen flow. You're going to either have to tab through everything, or you're going to have to go back a heading to the previous element from the left-hand column and then tab through to the beginning of the screen flow here. That's not great. In the better version of this lead creation screen flow, which hopefully I can get to actually show up on the screen for you guys. I don't know whether it has or not. I'm going to try doing a little bit of tabbing and see if that.
Home vertical bar Salesforce main region list
Awesome.
with 3 items. List with 1 item. Basic
So
info heading level 2 button.
So with this one, you will notice that I have grouped things into sections. I have included the original section header. So we've got all of these nice sections at different or headings at different levels that allow us to skip through portions of the screen flow if there are parts that I need to answer and parts that I don't, or if I, like I said, remember that I needed to do something earlier that I didn't do. So let me go down into one of the
info
later
heading
sections.
level 2 button expand company address heading assistant heading level 2 company address heading level 2 list with one
Okay,
items
so
list
here
with
I
one
am in
items
kind of
list
this
with one
address
items
section
group
at the
company
bottom.
virtual PC
And if I need to get back to the top,
company address company info basic info heading level 2 button list with one
here I am
items
in the
list
top
with
field.
one items list with 7
So that is much easier to deal with than the other screen flow. So I'm going to see if I can switch back to my slides
complete this
and
field.
if that will actually show up properly. Is that showing? Awesome. All right, so some key takeaways. For the Lightning record pages, you want to pay attention to your headings and to the different levels that they're at and how that's laid out on the page. You want to pay attention to your columns and try to put your main content in the left-hand column that's going to read first rather than the right-hand column. And you're going to want to try to declutter the page with tabs to the most reasonable extent that you can. For the screen flows, you again need to pay attention to the way that things are actually, are actually being formatted when you're including different kinds of elements, making sure that the header is showing up, adding in sections, organizing things well. If you do have, a significant amount of display text, formatted in HTML, and that may, you can actually create your own headings doing that. So there is a degree of customization that you can still bring into things with that without necessarily having to rely just on using the components that Salesforce has already configured for you. You do also want to make sure that you're paying attention to where you're embedding flows on a screen. In this case, it made sense to put them in the sidebar, so that's where I put them. But if they did count as the main content, we probably would have wanted them in that left-hand column instead. And then the final thing that wasn't included in the demo portion of things, but that I did feel was a kind of a necessary warning to give you is there are some really great third-party apps that extend your ScreenFlow functionality. Not everything has been configured to be accessible because these are things that are being produced by people other than Salesforce, so they're not necessarily, as conscientious about that sort of thing. And so generally speaking, I'm not saying don't use these kinds of third-party apps, but you may need to do a little bit of testing and vetting in order to be sure that they're actually going to work properly. So a few final things to talk about, just about other things related to the admin experience. So Experience Cloud is another thing that's very customizable in terms of what you're creating for people. And Experience Cloud site in a lot of cases is going to be as accessible as you made it. Definitely if you're using standard components from Salesforce, that'll sometimes introduce things like headings and that sort of thing into it. But a lot of it is down to what you're formatting in the website. Again, with third-party managed packages, things that you're getting from AppExchange, they vary a lot in terms of how accessible they are. And so doing a certain amount of vetting them from that perspective can be very helpful because some of them are really accessible, some of them are not. And then if you are a developer yourself and you're potentially going to be using things like Lightning Web Components and Visualforce pages that you're coding yourself, those, again, super customizable, but it's kind of up to you, that means, to make sure that they are actually accessible. Fortunately, Salesforce does provide some resources for Lightning Web Components to try to develop them accessibly. So if you go to developer.salesforce.com, they do actually have some great resources that are available, both to give you best practices and also, I believe, to help you test the accessibility of the Lightning Web Component. And then finally, I did want to give a few notes about other disabilities. Again, screen reader accessibility is my area of expertise, so it's what I focused on for this presentation. But it's not the only thing to look out for. There are plenty of low vision people who use magnification or various other apps that affect how the screen looks in order to be able to access a computer visually. And so you need, if you're customizing anything that would affect things like text size or color contrast, that is potentially going to really affect people who are accessing the web page from, with low vision. For people with cognitive impairments, it can be very helpful to have your button and field names be really descriptive and to include help text. I mean, that's helpful for people who don't have cognitive impairments. But it's that much more important for people who do. And then a lot of stuff that we're doing in Salesforce is purely text, so we don't have to necessarily worry about people who are deaf or hard of hearing. But if you are going to be including video or audio in, an Experience Cloud site or in, knowledge articles or something like that, where you potentially would be able to embed those things into Salesforce, then you're going to want to make sure that you're paying attention to the captions and transcripts, not only that you're providing those things, but that you're not just going with auto-generated captions. Auto-generated captions are a great shortcut to get that sort of thing started, but they need to be edited because they're not perfectly accurate. And especially if it's something like a how to do this thing in our Salesforce org sort of video, they need that information to be as accurate as possible. So I just want to underline, in general, for all sorts of disabilities, there's a lot of value in getting proper accessibility testing and vetting done by a professional. There's also a huge amount of value in just, if you've got end users with disabilities who actually work for your organization, have a conversation with them. Just ask them about what their experience with your Salesforce org is actually like and see what they have to say. See if they've got feedback for you, because our experiences are often very unique and idiosyncratic to ourselves. And so individual people may have individual preferences that you can help support. So then I've got just contact info for us at BIT, but if we've still got a little bit of time left, I am available for questions as well.
Hi. Is it a hard and fast rule for screen readers to read left to right, or is that dependent upon the language? So my organization is working on language equity, and we're having dynamically translated content. So we're doing Spanish right now, but the next one we're rolling out is going to be Arabic. So would an Arabic screenwriter or screen reader do left to right, or do we have to count for languages like that?
That is an interesting question that I actually don't know the answer to. But what I can tell you is that somebody on the internet knows the answer to that question. And I would definitely be looking it up, because I can see an argument for both. I can see a situation where the technology was originally developed by people who are focused on, languages that read left to right. And so that's just the default way it works. And it's just kind of, unfortunately, at odds with languages that are different from that. But I can also see a situation where things were developed specifically enough for Arabic or Hebrew or other screen readers, language-wise, where it actually would go right to left in terms of how the screen reader focus works. So yeah, I can see an argument for both. I would definitely look it up. You've now made me curious. I'm probably going to look it up after this.
Hi, I had a question. Is there any native Salesforce tool that tells us how accessible any given page within Salesforce is, and maybe gives us recommendations to improve on it?
So I don't know about things like Lightning record pages, things that admins can configure, but the best practices resources that they provide for developers for Lightning web components, I do believe that they have something that they, to my understanding, actually use in-house as part of vetting the accessibility of components that they're creating. And they also do a lot of accessibility testing to make sure that everything is working properly, but that I do believe is a resource that they make available outside of Salesforce, just as part of those developer resources. So hopefully that helps.
Thanks. Yeah.
So the language question, left to right, right to left, in from the development standpoint, it's top to bottom based on the document object
Yes,
model hierarchy.
that's
The way
correct.
the browser renders it is language dependent, but the screen reader is going to read top to bottom. Along those lines, is there a maximum length of information on the page that you can work with? I mean, you talk about putting things at the top, but are there interfaces that are too dense to be navigatable with a screen reader?
Yeah, that definitely is a bit of a sliding scale, so I'm not sure I can give you a hard and fast rule, but it definitely is the case that if you've got a huge amount of content on one page and there's, you don't have it, for example, set up so that it's organized into tabs or something like that, where you're actually changing the way you're interacting with the interface to access some of it. Like, it can get a bit overwhelming, even if the stuff that's most important is towards the top and, you're not getting to the stuff at the bottom until you're getting a little bit more in the weeds. When it starts getting to the point where you're scrolling down a lot as a sighted user, that probably means that it's going to be a lot of content to get through if you're looking for something at the bottom as a screen reader user. But I can't give you a hard and fast.
Oh, that makes sense. The tolerance for the amount of information you have to sort through and wayfind through a screen reader depends on the person.
That is definitely also
Great.
true.
All the way in the back. Hey, you're the loud guy. No, that's okay. We want to use the mic.
So I work with flows quite a bit, so it was good to see you put the flows on the screen. But I was wondering, as far as like utilizing flows from an accessibility standpoint, when is it appropriate to use a flow launched from a button versus a flow on a screen? And as a kind of miniature follow-up, how do you deal with modals from an accessibility standpoint?
Yeah, so I would say it's probably helpful to have the flow on the screen if it's something that is a pretty critical element of what you're doing with the screen. So part of the basis for the demo version of the home screen that I showed you is that we actually have things set up so that we have a time logging flow that is embedded directly into our home screen. And it is, in fact, exactly on the page where I placed my demo flows. And because that is something that we're using constantly, and it's something that's very critical to what we need to be able to do from the home page, it's super helpful to have that just directly embedded into the page. With many other flows, it's probably going to be more convenient to have it be a button, just because that takes up less real estate on the page from the perspective of like elements that you would potentially have to get through when you're looking for something, not just visually. And so having it be able to pull up the modal for the flow only when you're actually trying to interact with it definitely can be helpful, especially if there's a lot of different things going on the page. And then as far as the modal itself, so the good news is that's one of the things that Salesforce has taken care of for you. So the screen reader focus should shift automatically to the top of the modal when they hit enter on the button and it pulls the modal up, and it should return their focus to where they were before that, before they hit the button when they hit submit. So, or whatever the final button is for the modal.
Awesome. So from the utility bar standpoint, is that kind of similar in terms of like you just go to the very bottom of the page to utilize things in the utility bar, or is it completely different? Like things like the omni-channel components and things you throw in the utility bar in an app in Salesforce? Or do you not really have experience with any of that stuff?
I don't have as much experience with some of that stuff because it's, not stuff that either we or our clients have a tendency to need. So that's a little bit outside of my realm of experience.
Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? Okay.
Hi, thanks so much for this presentation. I guess what I have is maybe less a question and more an invitation for anyone who wants to collab. I work with a user who is sighted but has limited mobility and uses Dragon.
Oh, nice.
For as an end user in Salesforce to just avoid having to do too much mousing. And so I worked also with one of our colleagues in Australia who has built a number of little scripts to make Salesforce more accessible for limited mobility, limited sight, blind users, et cetera. It includes things like he has one for zebra striping in tables, which I know we all secretly want, even sighted users. But yeah, Dragon in particular has some real hiccups with a lot of the screen components.
That doesn't surprise me because it's, Salesforce in general is a very complicated application.
Absolutely. So anyway,
Yeah.
I just thanks for this demo. It was really informative for me to see and hear and sort of walk along with you with that. And then, yeah, my name's Jess. I'm at CU Boulder, and I'm really passionate about this and would like to get together with anybody who's also interested.
Yeah, I think it might be a great idea for you to contact us at BIT because we would definitely be interested in knowing more about those scripts you were talking about.
Absolutely. I'll get in touch.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
And I don't know if we have anybody else or... All right. Thank you, everyone.
Go flow, follow the map. Mile high dreaming's got your back. Denver skies, trailhead pride.